in this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to create a paper rip collage effect out of any footage inside of Premiere Pro and Photoshop. This is gonna be a step-by-step video from beginning to end, so make sure you don't skip through the video. That way you can learn how to do everything. If you skip one step, it's gonna make the later steps a lot more confusing. So with that being said, drop a like on the video and let me know in the comments down below if you appreciate the more step-by-step videos. And I also wanna let you know that all the paper assets that I'm gonna be using are linked down in the description. I'm gonna have each individual pack that I use, and then also my ultimate mixed media bundle, which is a combination of my ultimate texture bundle V1, V2, and V3. These texture packs have been used in some of the biggest music videos with like Lil Baby, Meek Mill, Kid Laroi, Polo G, just to name a few. It's been used by the NBA and also in a Netflix movie with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy. So they're pretty legit. If you wanna take your paper effects to the next level, I'd highly recommend you getting the ultimate mixed media bundle. Like I said, it comes with the V1, the V2, the V3, and also some sound effects to tie everything together. It's a no-brainer, and I'll have it linked down in the description alongside a discount code. If you use code BABY5 at checkout, you'll get $5 off your order, as well as you'll save a bunch because you're already bundling all the packs together. But that's enough talking right now. Let's get into the tutorial. So inside of Premiere Pro, I have the Roll the Dice music video pulled up, and as you can see, I just took some scenes from Lil Baby. And basically, to get the collage effect, we want to take screenshots, or if you have photos, you can also use photos. But a lot of times, if you're working with a music video or trying to create this video effect, you might not have photos. So what we can do is go through and create screenshots of like aesthetic looking frames and then use them as photos. So you can see here is a frame with Lil Baby. I think it looks pretty aesthetic. He's got his chains, he's got his watch, looking good. So you can see I already went through and took 4 screenshots, but I'm gonna show you the process of how to do that. So inside of Premiere Pro, there is this little camera icon. It says export frame, or you can hit Control Shift and E all at the same time, and it'll open this export frame. I'd recommend you change it to JPEG. And then I just like to name them like 1 through however many numbers you have, just so you know how many photos there are, but you can really name it whatever, and then go ahead and click OK. If you don't see this camera icon, you can also go here to this plus button editor, and then just go ahead and click and drag whatever you want down here. So for you, you would drag the camera icon down here. So that's the Premiere Pro portion for right now. We're gonna go into Photoshop, do a lot of the designing of the paper textures, and then we're gonna come back into Premiere Pro to animate it and add some sound effects. So inside of Photoshop, pull up the photo you want to start the transition with. As you can see here, this is kind of what I want as the first image. I'm gonna scale it up to kind of just be a little bit more centered here like this, and a little bit more focused on Baby. And then we're going to need some paper textures. So inside of my ultimate texture bundle V3, the paper collage effect is what we're gonna be using to get started. Like I said, I'd highly recommend the ultimate mixed media bundle. It's by far the best savings, and also you're just gonna get everything to create any kind of paper effect ever. We're not gonna use every single pack in this video, but I am gonna go through a few different ones. But I do have a playlist that I'll link down below with, I think there's over 40 tutorials on the paper effects using different combinations and different styles. This one's gonna be more focused on the collage pack because we're creating a paper collage. So as you can see here, there are a bunch of different folders, and you can see if you go to like something like diagonal rip, you can see there's the whole, and then there's the right, left, and middle. So what we're gonna do is actually just go ahead and control click on all 3 of these and then drag them in, and you can click enter, enter, enter. And that's kind of how we're going to animate the image. So you kind of got a preview of what that's gonna look like. But to get started, what we're gonna do is actually turn off the right in the middle, because we want the first frame to be this corner here. So to get our image onto this paper texture, it's actually really simple. We're gonna drag our image above the paper texture, and then we're gonna right click and then go to where it says create clipping mask. You can also click Alt Control G to do that if you wanna save time, because we're gonna be doing it a few times throughout the video. And then we're gonna go up here to the blending mode and then change it to screen. Any of these lighten screen modes will work. Lighter color, linear dodge add, color dodge. But I personally like screen the most. And then we can go up here and go to File, Save as Copy, and then I'm gonna make a new folder called Collage Done. And then we're gonna go and change this to a PNG. That's really important, so it has the transparency. And then we're gonna name this 1. And this is where it's really important to name it in chronological order. That way you can kind of build this collage in Photoshop, and then all you have to do in Premiere Pro is stack them in order of the numbers. It'll make more sense as we get later into the tutorial, but for the first image you save, just save it as number 1, the second for number 2, and so on and so forth. So then what I'm gonna do is duplicate our background layer and then drag it above our middle one, right click, create clipping mask, make sure to turn on that layer. And now you can see it's not only the first image now, it's the first and the second together. So we're gonna go through that same process, go up to File, Save as Copy. You can also click Alt Control S, and then we're gonna change it to a PNG. And then instead of 1, we're gonna name it 2 because it's gonna be the second image popping up. And then we're gonna do that that process one last time for this third image here. Create clipping mask. Now you can see we have our full image here. It's on a piece of paper. It has the edges cut off and it will kind of stack like this. It'll go like this. Pop up this one, and then this one. So then we're gonna go ahead and click Alt-Control-S, go to PNG, and name it 3. It's rather simple. Once you get it down, you can do it really, really quickly. So now we wanna drag in our second image. And this time we're not gonna have it take up the full screen. I wanna have it pop up and maybe just show the money and maybe like this part of the image here. So we'll go ahead and find a spot where we can have it replaced. I think in the top right might look cool. And now going through the collage pack, we're gonna go to extra large icons. If you're in Mac, you can do that as well. But going through and finding a shape that might look good for us. So there's like stars you can go ahead and add, which are really cool for the collage effect. There's squares. Let's see, what would fit here? I kind of want like this to take place. So probably not like a star, probably like a rectangle or something would fit well. You just kind of have to look at your image and see what would work. So let's go to one of these rectangles and let's go ahead and apply this rectangle wash layer. And you can see if you fit it inside your image, you can kind of get it in a unique way. You can also hold Shift on your keyboard to kind of scale it disproportionate. So I'm gonna turn it into a little bit more of like a square. And then we're gonna drag our image above just like we did before, right click, and then go to create clipping mask. You can see it kind of masked it to the image. And then we also need to change that image to screen. So now we have this layer with paper here. And in Premiere Pro, we're gonna add drop shadows and animate it and make it look really good together. So this is kind of just the layout portion right here. So I think that's looking rather good. We can go ahead and control click on both of those and maybe move it around to just fit our image a little bit better. See where it looks the best at. You can go ahead and play around with all these different areas. I think maybe in the top left might look cool for here. And you can even go ahead and just rotate it to give it a little bit more of like this stacking on top of each other look. And then let's go ahead and bring on our next image. Maybe this black and white one would look cool. And I think like a vertical rectangle here would look good because we don't really need any of this other stuff. Like the white's gonna kind of just be its own thing. So let's go ahead and maybe even use another rectangle and find something like this rectangle V2 split. Might work good. See if we can scale it up in a way where it looks good. Create clipping mask and then go to screen. I think that looks super hard, so let's go ahead and do that. So now we're starting to get this collage effect, but before we go too far, I do wanna make sure we save each individual layer because we did not save this one. Remember, we've saved this one as an individual layer, this one, and this one. So we can go ahead and turn those off. Let's go ahead and turn off this one on the right. So we wanna save this as an individual layer as well. So we can go Alt-Control-S and then go to PNG. And then this will be our fourth image. And let's turn this off for a second and then turn on this one. And this will be our fifth image. So we're just gonna go through, do the same process again. Now we're at 5. So we can turn on all those layers to kind of build up our collage. Let's do one final image here and kind of like make it maybe a unique shape or something. So let's see what our last image is. I kind of forgot what it is. It's baby looking at his watch. So maybe we can fit this into something like a star might be cool. Might be a little tricky, but let's see if we can make it work. I think this will be able to work. We'll just have to be creative with how we do it. Drag our image above, create clipping mask, and just figure out a way to make it fit in, and then also change it to screen. I think that looks super sick actually. And then let's make sure to turn off all those layers. So we have that star, Alt-Control-S, and then PNG at number 6. So now let's go back to Premiere Pro and we're gonna drag in our collage done effect. So you can see 1 through 6. And if it's not in numerical order, you can go here to name and sort by name. And then you can see it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's go ahead and make a transition between this clip, maybe right when he looks at the watch, to this clip right here. So what we're gonna do is control click on all of these layers and then drag them in. You can see by default for me, it's 1 frame long. So you can kind of see how it can animate in. Now we'll stack these so they all appear into this collage effect. But if you don't see yours lasting 1 frame and you wanna change the length of each frame when you drag it in, you can go to edit, preferences, timeline, and then the still image default duration you can change to 3 frames or however many frames you want the default to last. I think by default it's like a few seconds long, so it does like bring them in huge. It's not really that big of a deal, but it will help you just kind of create this effect. You can also just manually change the length of it. And I think also if you change that setting, you do have to restart Premiere Pro for it to, when you drag the image in, to last the duration you changed it to. So just keep that in mind if it's not changing. But what we want to do is we want this transition to start a little early. So we'll let the clip ride out till the end. here. But I want the transition to start around here. So we can do our first image so you can see how it'll pop up. And now we want this image to last the duration of our transition. So what we can do is on the second layer, just drag it out all the way. We might not make it last this long, but you can see now it's gonna have that stay up the whole entire time. So then maybe 1 or 2 frames in, we can go ahead and drag that next image in and we can drag the duration. So now you can see how it's starting to have this transition. And then let's go 1, 2, 3 frames in, drag this next one and make it last longer. And because we actually saved them in ways where it's the first image and then this second image is the first and second image, we can actually go ahead and cut these so they only have to last this long. As you can see now, it'll be the first image, first and second, and then third. So that will be the background. And now we can make this image last the duration of the thing. So it just makes it a little easier so you don't have to stack as many layers like that as possible. And then let's go ahead and find our next image that we want to pop up. So we can do like 1, 2, 3 frames maybe, drag in this next image, and we want this to last the duration as well. So now, boom, 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 pop up. And this is where you can also go through and click on the effects and controls and just change around the scale of it too. It doesn't have to be exactly where you saved it inside of Photoshop. That's what's kind of nice. You can customize it. Let's go through and do 1, 2, 3, 4 frames. I kind of just like to change up the frames a little bit. That way it's not like the same thing throughout. Like the speed is not just like a robotic kind of look. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, have this pop up. And then let's have this star pop up. And then let's cut it here. And then if we drag this just 1 frame over our background clip, it serves as a really good transition because it's going from this clip. And then as you can see in the background, it goes from this first clip to the second clip. So if you're looking at the corners, you won't be able to see the clip as a transition. So now what I like to do to sell the collage effect even more is adding on some tape textures. So from the Ultimate Texture Bundle V2, the Tape V2 pack, I'm gonna go through and find some tape textures that I think would look good. Maybe something like the masking tape always looks really clean. And you can find these pieces and drag them on and animate however you want. So let's find this masking 8.1 and let's drag that on somewhere where I think it would look good. So I want it to pop up with this piece of paper. So it's kind of like the paper is sticking to the other piece of paper. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So let's go ahead and scale that down, go to the motion. If you click motion up here, you'll be able to click around the image a lot easier. So now we can go ahead, kind of put the tape there. So you can see now when it pops up, it has a piece of tape attached to it. You can even do something like, let's go ahead and kind of tape this image together. So we can find another piece of tape, maybe this masking 11. And it's really important when you do this to have the tape last the duration. So you can see here, if I play it like right now, you can see how the tape pops up and then goes away, which I think looks weird. So you just make sure you drag it out to the length. So you do have to like start making a bunch more layers, but you can see how it really helps sell the effect. Now let's add some color to this. So maybe like a blue masking tape here. Drag it to the duration, and then let's go ahead and find one last piece of tape that would make sense on this star. Maybe this black one. I gotta find something that would be unique for the star shape. Maybe this one would fit well. So now you can see we have a lot more of that tape, like kind of collage transition. And one thing that we're missing a lot right now is an effect like drop shadow. Like drop shadow will go a really long way because it will kind of add some separation between the layers. So if we drag on effect drop shadow onto the star, we can go ahead and see how we automatically already have a little bit more separation between our images. But I want to bring up the opacity all the way, make the distance a little bit longer, and then bring the softness up. So now you can see if we toggle that on and off, it does make a huge difference. And I'm just gonna go ahead and click Control C or Command C on Mac, and then just paste it onto each individual paper layer. So you can see it just goes through and adds the separation. I'm gonna add it onto these background images as well. That way it has separation between the image and the video playing in the background. And now one thing it's definitely missing is like the animation. And because we added the tape to the image, like here on this image right here and the tape, I'm gonna go ahead and shift click on both of those, right click and go to nest. And then we can name this 4. So now you can see if I toggle that on and off, it's the tape and the image together. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that for each combination. So you can see the blue tape and the image as well. Let me go ahead and shift click on both of those and then go to nest and we can name this 5. What this is gonna do is clean up the timeline a little bit, but also make it way easier to animate. So we're gonna go to nest, we're gonna name this 6, and then we can go ahead and nest these first 3 images together with the tape. So we can just name this 1 through 3. So now we've condensed all the layers into just 3, and we can have a better understanding of kind of what our timeline looks like now. So now you can add an effect like transform on and keyframe the scale and the position and maybe just move it around a little bit. So like if you wanted to, you can add some shake by just kind of like moving down the position a bunch like this. And you can see how it kind of now has a little bit of movement into it. What I'd recommend is you also turning off use composition shutter and changing that to 180. And then you can go through and kind of add these keyframes throughout so it has a little bit more shake and movement. You don't have to do it all the way throughout the whole thing, but I do think it does help add a little bit of movement. So adding these keyframes can make your image like really come together. So now you can see in the background, it has just a little bit of movement like that. You can have it so it animates just till it's coming in. So like, for example, we could end it here and it'd be like, it would just have a little bit of movement till it stops. But what I'm going to do, just to save time for the sake of the tutorial, is use some presets from my energy pack. I'll have a link down below as well. If you use code BABY5, you can also get $5 off this one. And I'm gonna use my Twizzy Shake preset and then just drag that onto all of the layers. So just highlight them all and drag them on. And as you can see, it adds a lot of energy to the images themselves. I'm also just gonna go ahead and change the motion of them just a little bit to fit how I want it to fit the frame. And then one last final thing I'm gonna do is add a new adjustment layer over everything. And I'm gonna add an effect like transform on and just keyframe the scale at the beginning to be like 100 and then maybe scale in throughout just a little bit, nothing super crazy, like maybe like 110 and then making that shutter angle 180. That way it has a little bit of that zoom throughout. And I'm also just gonna extend the adjustment layer like this. And what I can do is add an effect like brightness and contrast on and keyframe the brightness and the contrast up for like 1 frame right at this transition, and then go back and reset them both to 0, and then go forward like 2 frames and send them to 0. That way it just has a little bit of this like flash transition in, and we can even go ahead and mimic that out too, just to kind of smooth everything out. So I'm just gonna copy and paste these keyframes and then line the middle one with the intensity right where it cuts. So we just need to drag these keyframes over. Like that. Now, one of the most important parts of making these effects really come to life is adding sound effects, especially on these paper and kind of like flash transitions. It really does help out so much. So I'm gonna be using my Essential Sounds pack. If you get the Ultimate Mixed Media Bundle, it'll come with everything. Like I said, the V1, the V2, the V3, the sound packs, basically everything you need. But I'll also have this Essential Sound Effects pack linked down below. You can really use any sound effects. I've personally made these to fit my packs to make them sound the best. But like I said, the most important part is just adding sound effects as a whole. So instead of my camera and shutters, I'm gonna drag in the all-in-one one, as well as inside of the paper, I'm gonna drag in the crumble because I know which sound effects I really like. So the crumble will sound kind of like paper stacking. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that right here, kind of cut it to the length of the clip. So now you can see it already makes it come together so much better. Like I said, I kind of designed these sound effects for like the collage effects and stuff that I like doing in mind. So it just like perfectly kind of fits the transition like that. And then I also want to add like a little flash shutter sound effect at the beginning. So just lining up where that happens, just lining up the audio. And then maybe have a different camera flash at the end. Maybe we'll do this one for the beginning and the other one for the end. Let's do that. Just flop these around. So now, and then just like that, we have an insane paper collage effect transition. The best part about these transitions is you can get really creative. So you can just take the concepts that I just taught in this video and make it 100% unique. It's probably one of my most favorite things about, making these digital mixed media effects is you can really transition anything and make it into an effect. So play around with all the different paper assets and the way you line them up, the tape, and then also animating it. Like I said, I'll have each individual pack that I use linked down in the description, as well as that Ultimate Mixed Media Bundle. That way, if you're super interested in paper effects, you can get them all in just one huge bundle, the V1, the V2, the V3, the sound effects. And you can also go ahead and check out that tutorial playlist where I have, I think, close to 40 tutorials using it in a bunch of different ways. So if you get that bundle, there's no shortage of effects you're gonna be able to use in your next projects for your clients. It literally will pay for itself in like one project. So I'd highly just recommend getting that one. And like I said, if you use code maybe 5 at checkout. You'll save $5 off your order, as well as support me as a creator. But that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this one. Hopefully you enjoyed. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video and you haven't already dropped a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, be sure to do that because I drop videos like this all the time. But that's all I got for you guys in this one. Peace.